Oh, I'm a ghost.
Spooky hotness, creepy time. Let's scream at the ghost today. What's in Pandora's box this time? On this ghastly holiday. Aficionados quiz, it's a nightmare terror. Aficionados quiz, it's a horror endeavor. Aficionados trick or treat. Shut the lantern, take a step inside the cavern. He's dressed as something in Walmart.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Aficionados Chris here, and today's video is a Patreon-sponsored review, courtesy of one generous patron, Nocturne Privid Yeti, who asked me to review the video game Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon. If you would also like to request for me to cover something on the channel, wait till the end of this video, or go to the link in the description to see details on my Patreon page. This is a subject that I have yet to tackle on the channel, but I'm actually a big fan of the Castlevania series. Growing up, one of my favorite things to watch during the Halloween season was the Universal Monster movies, so naturally the Castlevania franchise would have an instant appeal towards someone like me. The series has had its ups and its downs, but for all its missteps, Castlevania has remained highly acclaimed and very influential to this day. Castlevania's influence is critical in discussing the video game Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. This spiritual successor to the petrifying precision platformer was the creation of Koji Igarashi. Who's he? Well, one of the developers of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which many consider one of the best entries in the series. To fund his new IP, Igarashi-san turned to Kickstarter, which became one of the most funded video game projects on Kickstarter. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon was conceived as a small, sprite-based companion piece to Ritual of the Night as a stretch goal for the game's original Kickstarter campaign. So in the spirit of Halloween, I'm going to be playing and reviewing Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. More specifically, my copy on Steam. I mention this only because this game's been ported to nearly every console. But without any further ado, let's play some Bloodstained. The player takes control of Zangetsu, a demon-slaying swordsman who seeks revenge upon those who've cursed him. Throughout his expedition, he encounters three allies: Miriam, who wields a whip similar to the Belmonts in Castlevania, Alfred, an alchemist, and Jebel, a vampire. Each character has a unique moveset and special attacks that benefit different obstacles and enemies that the player will face. This style of gameplay is very reminiscent of Castlevania 3. I found myself playing as Miriam for most of my run. Old habits die hard. Can't play a Castlevania-inspired platformer without a whip. Much like the games it's homaging, you'll come across lanterns that, when struck, will reward you with various items, like weapon upgrades or downgrades, power potions, and health, which thankfully is represented by hearts and not pork chops. The game features many aspects that Castlevania fans are all too familiar with, like the infamous knockback when struck by an enemy and its famed difficulty. You can actually choose between two difficulty settings, Veteran and Casual. I, of course, went with Veteran because I ain't no filthy casual, and also because I enjoy the challenge. The game's campaign is 8 levels long, which may sound like a cakewalk, but remember that difficulty I mentioned earlier, because you're going to be dying. A lot. Normally this would be the part in any game review where I'd start yelling, cussing, or breaking something in frustration. But I take these deaths as a learning curve to get better at the game. A wise man once said, fall down 7 times, and get up 8. You've conquered the 7 trials, leaving many bodies in your path to victory. You've reached the final test, Grimoire, the Archdemon. After a very challenging duel, the evil is defeated, or so it would seem, as Zangetsu blocks the final blow from Grimoire, absorbing the dark energy and becoming infected. After our protagonist's brave sacrifice, our allies watch from afar, very reminiscent of similar endings in many Castlevania games. However, this is not the end, but only the beginning. Because afterwards, you unlock Nightmare Mode, which is the same campaign run, minus Zangetsu. What seems like a redundant task is actually a lot easier to traverse through, since you can now take advantage of some shortcuts that were originally inaccessible in the first run. Once you've bested these levels, you'll find yourself back at the Archdemon's lair, but this time, there's a twist. Our heroes find themselves separated by 3 paths, each one with a different set of obstacles and end bosses. And added challenges, you have to go through these 3 trials with just 1 life, so you best remember your training. Now you're faced with the final test against our friend Zangetsu, a shell of his former self. With the combined powers of Miriam, Alfred, and Jebel, Zangetsu's tortured soul is set free, giving us the true ending of the story, as our mythical travelers once again watch from afar as the sun rises. And that was Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon, and I absolutely loved every second of it. Curse of the Moon does a beautiful job paying tribute to the games that came before, while also standing on its own. The sprite art is stunning, and the controls are very tight and responsive. Having the trademark difficulty of the Castlevania games of the past fulfills that satisfying success when you defeat a challenging boss fight, giving you the strong and earned feeling of accomplishment. If I had any issues, it would have to be the short length, but given that this wasn't originally envisioned as anything more than a companion piece for a much larger game, I can look past that. Plus, a sequel was released not too long ago, which I'll definitely look into buying soon, and who knows, perhaps I'll even review it in the future. So if my fanboy gushing wasn't enough to convince you, I highly recommend that you give this game a try. It is a short but satisfying tribute to the pioneer platforming franchise. With that, that's really all I can say about Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and please have a very happy Halloween. Goodbye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Did you enjoy what you saw and you want to see more? All right, well then click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be notified for upcoming videos. Oh, be sure to like and comment as well. And if you're really generous, you can support the channel through Patreon.